Hey everyone, today I am going to talk to you about the importance of following your inner compass. And you might be thinking, I don't even know what my inner compass is saying, what my intuition is saying, because there's so much going on at the moment. I'm trying to close out cycles, and there could just be a lot of stress or challenge around your situation. So if that is resonating for you, just know that you're not alone, because a lot of people in the collective are going through this. We are at the end of the year of the snake. We're preparing for the year of the fire horse, which starts on the 17th of February. So until that point, we are still in the year of the snake. And so we are at the final leg of that, closing out those cycles, shedding the metaphorical skin, layers of toxicity not serving us, outdated patterns, and so on. But it can feel like a big ending. And that's because there's a lot of that energy going on. I said last year in many of my astrology reports that there was a massive theme of endings and beginnings because of planets moving into new signs and then retrograding back into the previous sign to cover old ground, using that as a window of opportunity to review and reflect some more and try and carry that wisdom forward of what we need to know into the new chapter, but then closing out those cycles. And there's been a lot of that because of the planetary movements last year in 2025. That's still going to be happening in 2026 because we will have planets that will be ingressing into new signs. So we've still got this sense of endings and beginnings. But at this moment, because of it being such a pivotal time in preparation for this year of the fire horse beginning, it feels like a major ending, a major closeout. And it's something that is not necessarily easy because, of course, we could be attached to certain things, to certain beliefs, to certain patterns. And we've realized through what this planetary energy has been showing us within our own situations of that which we need to close out for our highest good. So there's been a lifting of the veil. Neptune has certainly been doing that. And of course, working alongside Saturn as a bit of a task team in Pisces, there's been those tests and lessons on our soul's truth. So Neptune showing us things that have been hidden that we don't really want to see. And Saturn sort of testing us, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to put a boundary in place now? Are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you going to take your power back from that situation? Are you going to own your inner authority? And it's been a particularly testing time. And the Piscean energy itself is, of course, at the end of an astrological year. So bearing in mind that when it comes to Neptune and Saturn particularly, they are closing out a cycle in Pisces, which represents the 12th house of the zodiac, Western astrology. And therefore, they're going to be moving into Aries, which represents the first house. So you've already got that major ending and new beginning. And this is before we even get to Aries season in the astrological year. So it's sort of like a pre-start to that season, but there's still a lot going on. Okay, because we're getting that insight from Neptune and Saturn before we even get to Aries season because of everything that's going on. And when this year of the fire horse begins, 17th of February, we've got a new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius. So it's opening up the eclipse portal. If you imagine this portal opening up with the powerful energy, okay, that can bring, and the fire horse almost coming through, almost like it's opening a gate for the fire horse to come through. It's opening that door for the fire horse to just, bolt through. And there is that momentum that the year of the fire horse is going to display. It's not necessarily going to be without its challenges because we know that things can pivot, things ebb and flow in the astrology. There's always different aspects to take into consideration, and how the energy of the cosmos plays out in your own natal chart is going to be unique to you, of course. So it's going to impact people differently, but at the same time, there are themes within the collective of how this energy is going to play out. So if we can align with that momentum, because we're closing out those cycles as we wrap up the year of the snake, then that's going to serve us in the best possible light. You know, it's all about maximizing our potential this lifetime based on the energy we hold within, okay, and really trusting in that. There's a big message about trusting your inner compass, which I said at the beginning. And I am going to show you the chart for the 23rd of January when Mars ingresses into Aquarius. Okay, because that is quite a powerful move. And I say that because Mars is going to ingress into Aquarius and he's going to join other quite powerful masculine energy because Pluto is there. Mercury is now there. He's also going to join feminine energy because Venus is there. So the two counterparts, if you like, are going to be in Aquarius. And there's also a couple of feminine asteroids. We've got Vesta and Pallas in Aquarius. Pallas at the final degrees at that moment. Okay, so that's another ending. But we've also got the sun because we're in Aquarius season. So Mars is going to move into Aquarius and is going to form a stellium. Okay, there's already a stellium there, really, because stellium is 3 or more planets in the same sign. We've already got that. But he is going to heighten that because he's going to join the party. Okay, and what I felt, just in terms of looking at the feminine energy and the masculine energy, it's very heavily driven on the masculine side. Okay, and that's not to discount the asteroids, but we've got more masculine planets. But we have got a lot of feminine energy as well. So we've got that balance of action and that drive to take action and pursue what we want. And we've also got that essence of creation. So it's about creation and action, okay? And Aquarius, innovation, that new reality, and certainly with Pluto there, it's about that transformative new reality that we're moving in the direction of. So it's a big deal, because we're moving into this new way of being, okay? And we've had to adapt to this, and this is why we're closing out cycles, because that's not going to serve us going forward. Many things are not going to serve us going forward. So we're moving into this energy, and this is the zodiac season that we're in, of course, Aquarius, that is all about innovation. And it's also about connection, because Aquarius rules the 11th house. So there is a degree of connection with other people. And particularly, I feel, on a humanitarian level. So collectively, you know, what we're trying to achieve for the greater good in that way. But it is about innovation. So with the energy that's in Aquarius, it felt to me when I looked at the chart of that particular moment, when Mars ingresses into Aquarius, that it was very much about the rebirthed self. So the innovative self, because we are putting ourselves forward in that new way. But it's actually the true way, because the true essence of ourselves, that authenticity, is actually coming out. But because we might have been attached to a previous version of ourselves that now has served its purpose and we're moving forward as our true essence, that's the skin that we're shedding of the snake. So it served a purpose for us. But now as we move forward, this is about the innovative self, but the true essence, the authenticity that's coming forward. Aquarius, of course, is fixed air energy. So there is a degree of movement with air, okay? And communication opens up a bit more, you know. It feels like it's more supportive of that kind of energy. But it is fixed air. So there may still be some feelings of stagnancy or feeling a little bit stuck. And that could be because you're on the precipice of this new beginning, because of those endings and the major ending that we've got going on at the moment. So it's normal to feel like that if you're feeling a bit not too sure what to do. And the inner compass that I keep coming back to, that I mentioned at the beginning, your intuition. It's about following that. And it's important because I'll show you the reason why in the chart. But following your inner compass is pivotal at this time. And if you can't understand what your inner compass or your intuition is saying, this is where grounding, comes into play, being out in nature, healing, whatever works for you, to quiet the noise, okay? To quiet the noise that's around you, the stillness that then comes from the soul, the inner compass, to guide, okay? Because it's important to follow that path aligned with your inner compass. Now, in the chart, and I keep saying I'm going to show it, I will show it, the Sun and Pluto will be in an exact conjunction of 3 degrees. There will be a Cazimi, okay? So Pluto, the energy of Pluto is heightened, and that's very deep transformation. It's not surface level, it's rebirth energy. So with the Sun there, that's the Sun, soul, Pluto, rebirth. That is major soul rebirth energy that's coming in, which is another reason why grounding yourself, being still, quietening the noise around you that's not serving you, so you can focus on what your intuition is saying, will help you navigate forward. And especially if there's lots of worries coming up, anxieties, or it's just lots of patterns coming up, that's also normal because of closing out cycles. They're coming up for your attention. Neptune is still showing us things, okay? But it's important to be calm as you can be, breathe through it in order to understand what's coming up, because it's major soul rebirth energy. And it's about propelling us forward into the next chapter where we can align with our true authentic self. But to do that, we have to close out these cycles. So it's also things we might have, suppressed from ourselves, and then we've acknowledged, okay, yeah, I could have handled that a bit differently, or that showed me this, I learned this from that particular situation. And that is all about, understanding, processing, not just kind of like pushing it down, processing it, and then releasing it to move forward, closing out those cycles, as big or as small as they are. But I will reiterate that this is a major cycle in itself that's closing out for us. And the power that comes with that solar eclipse on that new moon and the beginning of the year of the fire horse, that's quite pivotal. Not long after that, we've got Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction in Aries, because Saturn will have moved in before the year of the fire horse begins, before that new moon solar eclipse. And then we'll have that. And then not long after, he's going to reunite in a conjunction with Neptune. And I felt that was a bold power move. This could bring further awakenings, like on a massive scale. And it's kickstarting that season of the lessons and tests relating to sovereignty and how we're going to apply what we've learnt through Saturn's time in Pisces, and also the year of the snake generally in terms of closing things out. But how are we now empowered to move forward with focus on the self, because Aries rules the first house. So we are going to understand more about that from what Saturn and Neptune are going to show us and teach us in that respect. And I'll do a separate video on that. I've already covered little bits about it in other astrology videos. So if you're interested, then of course, have a look on my channel where I've been talking about Saturn, but I will be talking about this more as this is coming up, because it's helping you, hopefully, prepare for that moment. Okay. And Pisceans particularly, it's been collective, because you're going to have Pisces somewhere in your chart. But for Pisceans, those that have a Pisces sun or pivotal Pisces placements, with what Saturn and Neptune have been doing in that sign over the past few years, has been pretty intense. And that energy is then going to be in Aries, you see. So it's kind of preparing for Aries and what Aries sun signs are going to be going forward. But again, I'll come on to that in another video. So let's rewind back to Mars ingressing into Aquarius. And I've mentioned about Sun and Pluto and that Cazimi and the powerful soul rebirth energy. It's not the only conjunction that we've got going on, because the moon will be in Pisces at that point, sensitive placement for the moon. And the moon will be in an exact conjunction with Saturn at 27 degrees Pisces. So there could be sensitive emotions coming up, because it is about, where we're going, where we're heading, moving forward, and needing to trust that spiritual essence within our soul. And that can bring up a lot of things, especially if Saturn is still testing us whilst he's wrapping things up in Pisces. He wants to make sure that he's taught the lessons that he needs to teach before he moves into Aries. So he's doing his job as a teacher. So it might feel intense, because if we've not got to that point yet, it could be lesson after lesson after lesson, back to back, you know, in that style. And remember, Saturn takes emotion out of it. So he just wants to get the job done. He wants us to stand up for ourselves and who we are. And in Pisces, he wants us to get in alignment with our soul's truth. But with the moon in Pisces, that's sensitive. So that's feeling it, but Saturn doesn't want to feel it. So it can feel quite intense. Okay. And that's why I'm saying it's natural at the moment. If these things are coming up and it's quite jarring, there's still an essence of maybe feeling a little bit stagnant, because you're trying to close things out. It's not to feel under any pressure whatsoever, because we've got this year of the fire horse coming up, because we've still got opportunities to close things out. But it's more so the awareness of what we need to close out and the openness to what's being shown to us. That's the important preparation. If we've not yet closed the things out that we need to, it's the awareness of what it is, because we want to align with that momentum going forward. So we can do that and close things out because we've got the awareness. Yeah. So it's not to feel pressure. And, you know, that's part of why it's important to be calm, because that's when the inner compass can guide you forward. The intuition can show you. Okay. So just bear that in mind. And the other thing, I think I mentioned it briefly before, was that Pallas, the feminine asteroid, Pallas, is in Aquarius at 29 degrees. So strategizing and fighting for what we want in this innovative reality. Obviously, she's going to be then moving into Pisces, but at this particular point, you know, being at the end of Aquarius, the strategizing relates to the innovative reality, but it is closing out that which doesn't align with the innovative reality, the rebirth self, in order to prepare for when she goes into Pisces, and then it's connecting in with that source energy and that flow. So she's also reminding us about closing out cycles, being at 29 degrees, the final anaretic degree. And of course, we've got the other planets, planetary bodies that are showing up within that final decan of a sign, and particularly towards the end degrees, because it is approaching final chapter, year of the snake, endings, closing out this major cycle. Okay. So let me just show you the chart. I'll try and be brief with it. And of course, do let me know, because I've mentioned this in the previous video, but do let me know if you find it helpful to see the chart. If you prefer videos that are more like this, just talking to the camera. I like to show you the chart, because then you can see the astrological data that I'm working with, and you can see the aspects. But let me know, because it might not work for some people. Drop a comment, be interested to hear. Okay, let me share. Right, bear with me. Photos. And we have got the chart. Okay, so this is the chart for when Mars ingresses into Aquarius. Okay, and it's happening on the 23rd of January. For us in the UK on GMT, it's 9:17 a.m. or to be precise, 9:16:46. Okay, because that is the moment, as you can see there. Mars 0 degrees, 0 minutes of Aquarius. That's when he ingresses in. So this is a freeze frame of the cosmos at that time. And you can see the party that he's joining, the stellium. We've got the sun there, but we've got Pluto, Mercury, and Venus. But either side of Venus, we've got Vesta and Pallas, and there's Pallas at 29 degrees. Okay, so that's big energy. We've got Pluto and the sun that I mentioned, 3 degrees. So although the minutes are different, you know, this is still the conjunction, the Cazimi between the two. It is soul, sun, rebirth, Pluto energy. Okay, and communication and expression is part of this, because we are potentially understanding what it means to express our authenticity in that innovative way, based on that soul rebirth energy. Okay, we have got Uranus in Taurus, as we know, and there is a trine that is going from Mars, the sun, and Pluto, okay, to Uranus retrograde. And then there is a square that's going from Uranus to Venus. Sorry, Pallas. Apologies, Pallas. So with that in mind, okay, we have got you know, this soul rebirth energy, and finally finding our expression, our authentic expression in terms of that rebirth self, and how that fits in nicely with the change. Okay, because Uranus is all about change. Uranus rules Aquarius. But this change involves a step out of the comfort zone, because Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and it's about detaching from the familiar that's no longer serving us, that was never really a comfort for us. Perhaps it was at some time, but not anymore as we move forward in that innovative way, the rebirth self. So it's working quite nicely because we are experiencing that soul rebirth. It's enabling the change. And also, as things are changing around us within our physical reality, that is also assisting this rebirth and transformation. Okay. It's all about the new reality. But the square comes in with Pallas because the challenge is about strategizing and making sure that we are on track and aligned with the path forward in terms of what we are planning, what we are strategizing, what we want to achieve. So thinking about, yeah, we need to feel from an intuitive perspective, but then we also need to strategize going forward. And I mentioned before, to not feel under any pressure. If there's still things you need to close out, having that strategy of the new reality and saying, okay, well, I know I need to close this out because this has come up for me recently. I've understood it's a pattern. It's a pattern that's no longer serving me, but I need to understand what it's teaching me. So part of my strategy is to dive into that a bit more, to try and understand where it's coming from. And then I can, you know, release it, heal it, and move forward. And I've got that wisdom. But that's your plan. That's your strategy. It's having the awareness of what's going on, okay, in order to create that change. So it's supporting the rebirth self. It's the desire to not be stuck in the past. Okay, that's very important. There is also a sextile that is going from Mars to the Moon and Saturn, and I mentioned this earlier about, you know, sensitive emotions because of what we're being shown, and Saturn, you know, doesn't want to know about emotion. You know, it's just like, get this done, take your power back. So the action that we choose to take, you know, needs to be based on that inner authority that is emerging from this soul rebirth, and just feeling through the sensitivities as we need to, because it's understanding this is part of the process. Lilith is up here. She's close to the midheaven of the chart and as an astrological event. So Lilith is Sag. She's no longer in retrograde. She was in Scorpio for a time, and that was quite deep stuff coming up, you know, stuff we might have suppressed. And there's still an element of that. But this semi-square that's going to Venus is absolutely, to me, saying that, you know, boundaries are essential in terms of the path forward. Boundaries are essential. And it's really important to recognize the femininity as well. So even if you're a masculine watching this, you know, we've got feminine and masculine energy within us, regardless of gender or how we identify. So it's aligning more with the creator within. So that creative energy and, you know, the desire to birth something, to create something, and also to nurture ourselves through the process. So there needs to be this aspiration, if you like, because of the closeness to the midheaven, the aspiration to kind of lead from the heart space, and the desire to create is pivotal, but recognizing that there could still be shadow aspects that we need to address as part of the journey. That's going to enhance that. It's going to enable us to actually be stronger within the feminine essence. That's what it feels like. It is about shooting the bow and arrow in the direction of that which you want. So, you know, Lilith will also show us about our deep desires. So it's acknowledging that and having the boundaries in place, having that ability to nurture ourselves through this whole process, which is important, to lead from the heart based on what we are trying to achieve, and to acknowledge those deep desires once and for all by going for it. Okay, because that's part of what's aligning us with our true essence, if that's what we truly want. But we have to kind of address what might be shown to us. So Lilith shows us that, Saturn will show us that, and of course Neptune is revealing a lot as well, lifting the veil. So taking that into account, we need to hold on to that essence of, well, this is what I want to create for my life, and this is what I truly desire, but I do need to put some boundaries in place. And I do need to invest my time, my energy, my love, my attention, my money in the things that align with that. So it's acknowledging all of that as well, okay, and understanding the deep-rooted patterns that might have prevented you from doing it in the past, or where you've suppressed certain aspects as well, okay, to bear that in mind. But it feels powerful in terms of taking back that feminine power within, of the creation, but the nurturing is part of this as well, okay? You've kind of got it's almost like the soft touch of the nurturing and the creation, the birthing, but the absolute strength of having the boundaries in place and really kind of like, nobody's messing with me. That sort of energy. I'm going after what I want. Nobody's messing with me now. I'm putting boundaries in place. I'm only investing in things that align with me, and that's it. So it's the strength that comes from that. So I think the masculine energy in Aquarius, along with Venus, is supporting that as well. Okay. But it's acknowledgement of deep desires, absolutely. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we've got the South Node in Virgo, and there is a trine to Juno. Juno's in Capricorn. Juno represents love, commitment. I also often read Juno as a soul contract energy as well, depending on what's going on in the chart and what I'm being guided to share. This feels, because of the earth energy between the two, it's very grounded, and a trine is, of course, harmonious in astrology. So we've got this positive aspect between the South Node, that which we're trying to detach from, and Juno, which is about commitment. And because Juno's in Capricorn, it is commitment to what we're trying to achieve, because Capricorn is all about achieving. Saturn rules Capricorn, as we know. So it's about going for it. It's about focus, determination, and drive. And it can relate specifically to work situations here, but it's very, it's powerful energy. So it's commitment to the path of achieving what we want to achieve. And that is enabling us to detach from the cycles that are not serving us. Part of that is about detaching from things having to be a certain way, because the shadow side of Virgo is this kind of perfectionism, and things have to look a certain way, things have to be a certain way, because Virgo likes to be in control and likes to feel in control. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a great organizational capacity to Virgo. But this is about detaching from cycles where, there's been too much expectation of how things should be. So there's an openness to the path, but being committed to achieve what you want to achieve, whilst removing any expectation from what it could be like, and detaching from things where it's just not served you and it doesn't align with what you're trying to achieve anymore. Okay. Now, the North Node, interestingly, we know that's opposite in Pisces. And in July, the nodes are going to shift as well. So that's going to be another major thing that's happening this year. But here, again, freeze frame of the cosmos at the time of Mars ingressing into Aquarius, because this is going to move. The ascendant moves, every couple of hours, it's going to change. But at this particular point, when Mars ingresses in, the North Node is 1 degree off the ascendant of the chart. So the ascendant, how we show up, okay, how others can see us in that way, how we show up, is in Pisces at this particular point. And there's only one degree between the North Node and the ascendant. So thinking of it as an event, Mars ingressing into Aquarius, the planetary energy at that time is showing up aligned with the ethereal path. And this is where I go back to what I was saying at the beginning with the inner compass, because the North Node in Pisces is about the path forward, guided by our inner compass, our intuition. So this is showing up in this way. And with this conjunction here, 1 degree difference, it's aligning with the path of, okay, this is about the innovative self going forward. I need to trust my intuition, quiet the noise around that's not connected to that, so I can focus and be calm and be still, recognize that there's powerful shifts going on and powerful changes. And often our physical self has to catch up with the energetic self. So be kind to ourselves. That's part of the nurturing quality as well. And Pisces can also be, empathetic to things. So let's nurture ourselves through this process. But let's align with what our inner compass is saying and guiding us towards, because this is how this event, astrological event, is showing up. Okay, in that ethereal capacity, guiding us towards the source energy within. Okay, right, I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, so I'll leave it there, but essentially this is about recognizing that as we're moving forward, it is about aligning with the innovative self, which is actually the true authentic essence. It's just emerging, okay? And that we've had to close out and are still closing out cycles that are not serving us. And those cycles can be quite minor, they can be quite major. It depends on people's circumstances, if this is even resonating with you at all. But I imagine if it's not, you would have clicked off already by now. So it's being kind to yourself through this process, recognizing that it's normal to feel a bit stuck at the moment, and that can be uncomfortable, but that's because we need to feel the discomfort in order to make a change. So it's not to punish us or to be harsh on us, but we need to see what has to change and what's not working for us. And there's obviously a reason why it's not working for us, so it's understanding that. And in order to understand that and connect with our intuition, that's why we need to have that stillness and that kind of quiet time in order to process what's coming up for us. But remember, yes, we've got the year of the Firehorse coming on the 17th of Feb. We want to align with the momentum because, 2025 was pretty intense. We want to align with positivity. We want to maximize our potential in this lifetime. So we want to drive forward aligned with that energy, don't we? And to get to that point, it's the recognition that we do need to close out certain things, and we need to emerge as our true self, to not hide our true self anymore. And to do that, we've had to overcome certain things because there's, fears, doubts, anxieties, there's wounds, there's, patterns, all sorts of things that could be coming up, different lessons that we need to understand what that was teaching us and why, and how much stronger we are as a result of all of this. So it's a positive thing, even if it feels a bit like, ooh, at this moment in time, because it's kind of like 1 foot in the past and 1 foot reaching for that kind of new chapter, but we're kind of straddling that moment at the time, because we're kind of caught in that I want to say ravine, but we're not in a ditch or anything. We're kind of like at that point where we're in between these major changes and we're needing to close things out. That's why we've still got 1 foot there, but it is moving forward. There's actually a card that's in the Wisdom of the Oracle deck, and it's called Between Worlds. And that is what it feels like. And it's a flamingo, and the one side of it is kind of in the grey, and that's sort of indicating the past that's no longer serving. It's things that need to close out. And then the other half is in colour, and it's part of the flamingo where you've got the flamingo's head and there's a crown. So it's moving into that sovereignty. And that's certainly what we're moving into with, the Aries energy that will be coming up when we start off the new astrological year. And obviously what Saturn and Neptune are going to foreshadow for us coming up sooner than that. But it is about sovereignty. So we need to understand all these things that have not been serving us in order to uphold our sovereignty and come from that place of the self. Does it align with myself anymore? No. Okay, I need to close that out. And it's understanding that it's not necessarily having every single thing closed out and rushing to do that before the year of the Firehorse starts, but it is about recognizing what's come up so far, okay, that needs to be closed out, because there's acknowledgement of that then, and also the openness to other things being revealed. And that will still be that momentum moving forward, okay, because it's that desire and that intention to align with the energy of moving forward on your aligned path, being your authentic self. And just by doing that, that is acknowledging, to the universe, this is my intention to move forward in the way that supports me and how I can maximize my potential this lifetime and how I can maximize my potential this particular year of 2026, for example, and being open to what's being revealed and understanding that you might need to address some things along the way. But ultimately, this is time now for success, closing out those outdated cycles that are no longer serving you. Because think of it like this: you evolve and things are naturally going to fall out of alignment. And that's just the natural way of life. But we can become, myself included, too attached to certain things. So then that's the false comfort blanket. So it's kind of like, well, no, if you've evolved and it's no longer serving you, it's no longer aligned with you, it can't come with you. You know, it's that sort of thing. So, and it could be something as simple, and I say simple, not to make light of it, because believe me, it's not, but a self-limiting belief. It could be something like that. It could be a major ending, like with a job or something like, do you know what I mean? So it depends on the individual if this is resonating at all. So I'm sending you all my best. I'll be bringing you more videos. And of course, I'm still trying to understand within my own inner compass and intuition how best to guide you with videos going forward. And this is why I'm interested to know what people think, if they find the charts helpful, or, you know, if they find just talking to the camera more, you know, easy to digest information. I think I know where I was going with it, but my Piscean brain kind of went off into some other dimension, I think, at that moment. So yeah, it's, you know, I'm still trying to address this myself because of evolution, natural evolution, and you know, the fact that the videos that I was putting out right at the beginning, you know, haven't been serving me, so I changed, and now it could need a slight pivot or a tweak going forward. So it's me understanding that as well, but getting feedback from people is helpful. I've had feedback from a couple of subscribers already, so thank you so much for that. It's really helpful. I've just got to try and put my own plan and strategy in place for how I'm going to do this going forward. I want to be able to bring the best value to people, help people. So if there's a specific topic, or you know, you think of a question that you think, well, you know, I really want to know how I can work through this and how the planetary energy can support me with this, that's something I could look at in a future video for you. So do drop a comment, and of course, like, share, subscribe, do all those things, and hit the notification bell so you get notified of future videos. But that kind of work is going on behind the scenes. I'm still wanting to show up for you, to bring you this information to help you. So I hope it does help and it resonates in some way. But I'm sending you love and blessings. You've got this. Just remember, don't put any pressure on yourself. Align with that true, authentic essence and trust the inner compass going forward. So I'll see you on the next video. Take care.